Hello everybody, I'm Alejandra and I'm an active participant of the project CAP4CITY co-financing by Erasmus+. Today I will present to you a case of study on entrepreneurship, optimism and knowledge creation in Medellin. So, this case has three main objectives, which are understand how entrepreneurship, optimism and knowledge creation can improve a society, reflect on how bad policies supporting of false ideas may destroy optimism in a society, and evaluate alternatives for sustainable economic development and innovation in Medellin. So let's get started. Medellin is a Colombian city with a history of contrasts. It was once considered the most violent city in the world, and nowadays it is recognized as an example of progress and development. How did a city that from 1980s to the 2000 years struggled to deal with drug cartels, violence and influence over politics and economy became a pole of development and progress in the 21st century? How did this transformation happen in less than 20 years? The answer for sure is not easy. Medellin has had a violent political history representing events of rural and urban violence. This violent history has several explanations, including economic pressures and political disagreements. From 1950, the urban concentration in Medellin increased unemployment and urban poverty. From 1976 to 1986, it had an average unemployment rate of 14.5%, higher by 4 points of the four main cities' unemployment rate. The unemployment and low income tied to rural political violence led to the emergence of illegal armed groups in some neighborhoods. Later, in the middle of 1970s, the practices of vendettas, hitmens, and informality were adopted by illegal groups dedicated to the drugs trafficking. Allowing from 1980s to 1995, Medellin became home of the world's biggest drug cartels. Their profits were about $4 billion and supplied 80% of the cocaine consumed in the United States. But after all this violent history, since the 2000 years, Medellin became an example of modernization, entrepreneurship, and urban development. Other important factor was the economy of the first decade of the 20th century. The Department of Antioquia and its capital Medellin led the exports of the country's leading commercial products, gold and coffee. The accumulation of wealth from these goods was the basis for the industrial manufacturing development of the country. The entrepreneurial capacity of the people of Antioquia led the region to occupy the first position in the number of textile factories in the country, which in 1945 accounted 67% of the manufacturing sector in Colombia. On the other hand, the end of the decade of the 80s and the beginning of the 90s was characterized by nationwide social problems, including armed conflict, drug trafficking, and economic slowdown. Thus, social efforts were focused on reducing violent rates and strengthening the guarantee of public goods, such as education, health, employment, security, and public order. These actions were reinforced by the Constituent Assembly of 1991, that culminated in the mobilization of urban armed groups such as M19 and the modernization of Colombia's constitution. The 1991 constitutional reform created new instruments and mechanisms addressing innovation, entrepreneurship, and science development. Medellin's growth is immediately related to entrepreneurship and optimism. Despite having adverse social conditions, social violence, and poverty, the city has managed to transform itself from a violent city into an example of progress, innovation, and development. Hidroituango, a hydroelectrical generation project including a dam in the Cauca River, recently presented problems leading to project delays, increasing risk and overprices, leading it to be used as a political tool. With the arrival of Daniel Quintero, a young new mayor for the 2020-2023 period, argues that the problems presented in Hidroituango are an example of collusion corrupt association between the public and private sectors. From this perspective, Medellin may lose optimism by rejecting the very thing that explains its progress, namely the collaboration among several sectors of the society. Embracing optimism and entrepreneurship, instead Medellin may adopt a pessimistic attitude, adopting the precautionary principle. The dilemma of this case is how must a society face political economy problems and propose solutions without falling into pessimistic attitudes that stop progress? Several other factors also contribute to Medellin's modernization. A new national constitution, 1991, the fight against drug cartels, and the signature of a peace agreement with the M19 guerrilla. During the new century, Colombia achieved a right-wing government that openly fought to FARC guerrilla. This period is characterized by high economic growth, as mobilization of paramilitary groups, the strengthening of the Colombian state, the weakening of communist guerrilla, and excesses from the military forces against the civil population. This period ended with the signature of the peace agreement in 2016. According to this change, the city implemented several projects transforming Medellin into one of the most progressive Latin American cities, with initiatives as program of memory conservation and cultural alternatives, library parks, the metro, the tram, the gondola lift system, escalators, and bike lanes. In this case of Antioquia, in 1996, the first technology-based business incubator, the Science and Technology Center, was developed to promote business dynamization. In 2004, innovation became a priority for the public administration of Medellin, and they launched a government program with the name Cultura E, Culture of Entrepreneurship. Simultaneously, a significant public investment was made in infrastructure, including the construction and modernization of public spaces, social libraries, and parks. Another interesting result of these policies is the project Medellin City Cluster, committed to creating competitive advantage for local business. The project started promoting collaboration amongst companies to generate local synergies and compete in the global economy. People in Medellin recognized early that knowledge creation was immediately related with entrepreneurship and economic growth. Other example of industry is the Public Services Company of Medellin, Empresa de Servicios Públicos de Medellin, EPM, that was created on August 6, 1955 from the decision of the Administration Council of Medellin to merge in a single establishment the four companies that provides public energy, aqueduct, seawall, and telephone services. In 1989, the telephone services was separated from the main company to form the subsidiary UNE EPM Telecomunicaciones. Since 1998, EPM legally became a public industrial and commercial company. Outside it is 100% property of the city of Medellin. EPM's assets are separated from those of the city. It is an independent company with its own corporate governance that participates in the stock market. But now EPM has been at the forefront of the reproductional crisis in recent years. The situation is due to a problem in the hydroelectric project it led, known as Hidroituango. The project is a dam development on the Cauca River in the municipality of Ituango in Antioquia. Born in April 28, 2018, one of the auxiliary tunnels of Hidroituango dam collapsed, generating a reservoir overflows and flooding. To contain the possible river overflow, the project managers decided to flood the engineer room. But the measure was not enough to hold the water. The overflow of the Cauca River caused a flood in the nearby municipalities, affecting more than 25,000 people who live near to the river, who have to evacuate their homes. According to the prosecutor, one of the most questionable facts was awarding the project to EPM as a contractor while being a shareholder. The mayor of Medellin for the period between 2018, 2011 and 2012, 2015, the governors, the manager of EPM and several members of the board of directors were declared responsible, and the investigations are still in progress. The project EPN and the local administration are trying to solve the problems to finish the project. As Hidroituango is a critical project in Colombian infrastructure, the crisis has generated a political controversy, and several politicians have taken advantage to promote their candidatures in the 2019 mayor's race for Medellin, Hidroituango, and the relationships among business and the administration were key points of discussion. But Medellin got a new administration with new risk and new board of directors. Daniel Quintero is a young politician born in 1918 with undergraduate studies in electronic engineering and a master's degree in public administration. Between 2015 to 2016, he was the CEO of Impulsa, a Colombian government agency created to promote productivity, entrepreneurship, and innovation. During the first semester of 2020, Quintero and the newly appointed CEO decided to change the company's main enterprise objectives, ignoring the board of directors. Later in July 2020, they both decided to share the consortium in charge of building Hidroituango, again without considering the board of directors. These two facts caused the resignation of the board of directors. According to the board, Quintero was neglecting the company's board opinions. He was ignoring the corporate governance and he was engaged in the project. Quintero argued that he was protecting Medellin assets and the public interest. He also argued that the controversy and the opposition he was receiving was a conspiracy by Grupo Empresarial Antioqueño. We don't pretend to have an opinion about what exactly is happening in this scenario. We don't want to take a position in this political debate. In this case, we want to discuss what could happen if the collaboration among business and the public administration is broken. If Quintero is right and Medellin's collaboration between business and politicians is as an example of corrupt collaboration, could the new administration provide a decent and transparent alternative? Now, to close this presentation of the case, students are expected to analyze how false theories may lead to erroneous explanation of problems in societies. Two examples of such false theories are the conspiracy theory and pessimism. In other words, the theory that problems in society are explained by the presence of bad people, conspirators, and the theory that problems are insoluble but evitable. We further propose the reader to evaluate the concept of crony capitalism and whether it is an accurate explanation of the problem of collaboration between public and private sectors in the case of the Medellin. However, there are just some ideas to guide the discussion. We expect the student to analyze the case from multiple perspectives and propose explanation in the cases of problems and possible solutions. Thank you for seeing and listening. See you next time.